Most people believe their biggest problem is a lack of discipline. They're wrong. Their biggest problem is that their brain rewards the dream before it rewards the work. Think about the last goal you became excited about. Maybe you decided to start a business, lose weight, launch a YouTube channel, learn a new skill. The moment you made that decision, something interesting happened. You felt energized, motivated, inspired. Suddenly, the future looked different. You imagined the success, the recognition, the money, the transformation. And in that moment, your brain released dopamine, the same chemical associated with achievement and reward. Here's the dangerous part. Your brain doesn't always distinguish between imagining success and earning success. To your subconscious mind, talking about the goal, planning the goal, and visualizing the goal can feel surprisingly similar to actually making progress toward it. That's why so many people become addicted to preparation. They buy courses, create vision boards, write detailed plans, watch motivational videos, tell their friends what they're about to accomplish. And every one of those actions creates a small emotional reward, a feeling of movement, a feeling of progress, a feeling of success. But feelings are not results. This is the trap that quietly destroys potential. Many people spend years collecting the emotions of achievement without ever collecting the achievement itself. They fall in love with the idea of becoming successful instead of the process required to become successful. The truth is uncomfortable. Announcing your goals often satisfies your ego more than it serves your future. The applause arrives before the effort. The validation arrives before the sacrifice. The reward arrives before the work. And once your brain receives the reward, urgency begins to disappear. This is why some of the most successful people in the world move in silence. They don't rush to tell everyone what they're building. They don't seek validation for unfinished work. They understand a simple principle. Energy spent talking is energy not spent executing. The powerful are obsessed with proof. The average person is obsessed with possibilities. The average person says, "I'm going to do this." The powerful person asks, "What have I done today?" Because reality only respects action, not intentions, not promises, not potential. Action. Every day your dream remains a conversation instead of a behavior. Your brain becomes more comfortable with fantasy and less familiar with execution. And eventually, you begin confusing desire with progress. That's why most goals die. Not because people lack talent, not because they lack intelligence, but because they accidentally consumed the emotional reward before earning the actual result. The people who win understand something different. They don't chase the feeling of success. They chase evidence. Evidence that they showed up. Evidence that they executed. Evidence that they moved forward when nobody was watching. Because confidence is not created by imagining a better future. Confidence is created by proving to yourself that you can build it. And that's the moment everything changes. The moment you stop rewarding yourself for the dream and start rewarding yourself for the work, success stops being a fantasy. It becomes a process. And processes are what turn ordinary people into extraordinary results. Hope is one of the most dangerous drugs in the world. Not because hope is evil, but because hope makes people feel like they're moving when they're actually standing still. Think about how many people spend years saying things like, "One day I'll start my business. Next year I'll get in shape. Soon I'll finally become disciplined. I just need the right opportunity." At first, these statements sound optimistic, positive, encouraging, but beneath the surface, they often hide something far more dangerous: inaction. Because hope feels productive. It creates the emotional sensation that something is happening. It allows people to believe they're getting closer to their goals even when their daily behavior remains exactly the same. And that's why hope becomes addictive. The human mind loves uncertainty when the uncertainty contains a positive fantasy. It's easier to imagine success than it is to build it. It's easier to hope than to design, easier to dream than to execute. Most people spend their lives waiting for the future to save them. They wait for motivation. They wait for inspiration. They wait for confidence. They wait for the perfect time. But powerful people understand a truth that most never learn. The future does not reward hope. The future rewards systems. Look around at the most successful organizations on Earth. Airlines don't rely on hope. Hospitals don't rely on hope. The military doesn't rely on hope. Billion-dollar companies don't rely on hope. Everything operates through systems, processes, structures, rules, checklists, repetition, because systems create predictable outcomes. Hope creates emotional comfort, and emotional comfort has never built anything valuable. This is why successful people often appear less emotional than everyone else. They don't wake up asking, "Do I feel motivated today?" They ask, "What does the system require?" The average person follows feelings. The powerful follow processes. And over time, those two approaches create dramatically different lives. Human nature pushes us toward hope because hope is easy. Hope requires no sacrifice, no structure, no accountability. You can sit on a couch, watch videos for 6 hours, and still hope your future will improve. But systems demand something different. Systems demand reality. Reality demands action. This is where most people fail. They want the outcome without the structure that produces it. They want confidence without repetition, success without consistency, wealth without systems, discipline without routines. And when results don't appear, they blame themselves. They think they're lazy, weak, undisciplined. But often the problem isn't character, it's architecture. Imagine two people trying to build a house. One person has motivation, the other has blueprints. Who succeeds? Motivation can help you start, but blueprints determine whether the structure survives. The same is true in life. Motivation is an emotion. Systems are infrastructure, and infrastructure always outlasts emotion. This is why goals alone rarely change lives. Goals tell you where you want to go. Systems determine whether you ever arrive. A goal is losing 20 pounds. A system is exercising every morning. A goal is growing a YouTube channel. A system is writing, filming, and publishing consistently. A goal is becoming wealthy. A system is creating value every day and investing intelligently. Notice the difference. Goals create direction. Systems create movement. And movement is what changes reality. The uncomfortable truth is that many people are secretly in love with hope because hope protects them from responsibility. As long as success remains in the future, they never have to confront their present behavior. They never have to ask difficult questions. Why am I procrastinating? Why am I distracted? Why am I avoiding the work? Hope postpones those questions. Systems force you to answer them, and that's why systems are powerful. A system doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care whether you're inspired, confident, excited, or tired. The system runs anyway. That's what makes it a weapon. While most people are negotiating with themselves every morning, the system-driven person is already moving. While others are waiting for motivation, the system-driven person is collecting results. Day after day, week after week, year after year. The gap begins small, almost invisible, but systems compound. Every action reinforces the next. Every repetition makes the behavior easier. Every completed day strengthens identity. And eventually something remarkable happens. What once required effort becomes automatic. Execution becomes normal. Progress becomes expected. Success stops feeling like luck. It starts feeling inevitable. This is the difference between people who constantly restart their lives and people who continuously advance them. One group hopes, the other builds. One waits, the other designs. One dreams about the future, the other engineers it. Because at the highest level, success is not a matter of motivation. It's a matter of structure. And the people who win are rarely the people with the most hope. They're the people with the strongest systems. The crowd asks, "How can I stay motivated?" The powerful ask, "How can I make success automatic?" And that single question changes everything. Because hope may make you feel better today, but systems are what build a better tomorrow. What if your life isn't the result of luck? What if it isn't bad timing? What if it isn't the economy, your childhood, your boss, or the universe working against you? What if your current reality is simply the output of the systems you run every day? Most people spend years trying to change their lives without ever examining the machine that's producing their lives. They focus on outcomes: more money, better health, more discipline, more success, but they ignore the system generating those outcomes. And that's why they stay stuck. Imagine walking into a factory. At one end, raw materials go in. At the other end, finished products come out. Now imagine every product coming off the assembly line is defective. Would you stand at the end of the conveyor belt and yell at the products? Would you blame them? Of course not. You would inspect the machinery. You would examine the process. You would fix the system. Yet when it comes to their own lives, most people do the exact opposite. They see poor results and immediately blame themselves. I'm lazy. I'm not disciplined. I'm not talented enough. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the problem is the process you're repeating every day? Because whether you realize it or not, your life is already running on systems. If you wake up tired every morning, that's a system. If you spend hours scrolling on your phone every night, that's a system. If you're constantly behind on your goals, that's a system. If you're financially stressed every month, that's a system. The uncomfortable truth is that systems don't care about your intentions. They only care about your actions. You can want success all day long. But if your daily behaviors are producing distraction, procrastination, and inconsistency, then those are the results you're going to get. Human nature makes this difficult to accept, because blaming circumstances feels easier than accepting responsibility. It's comforting to believe that success belongs to people with better opportunities, better connections, better luck. But powerful people think differently. They ask a different question. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What system is producing this outcome?" That single question changes everything, because it shifts your focus from emotion to mechanics, from excuses to solutions, from frustration to control. Think about someone who says they want to get fit. Every year they make the same promise. Every year they buy new workout clothes. Every year they start and stop. Why? Because they're focused on the goal, not the system. The goal is losing 20 pounds. The system is exercising consistently. The goal is writing a book. The system is writing every day. The goal is financial freedom. The system is creating value, investing wisely, and controlling expenses. Goals tell you what you want. Systems determine whether you get it. This is why two people can have the exact same goal and achieve completely different outcomes. One relies on motivation. The other relies on structure. One waits until they feel ready. The other follows a process. And over time, the gap becomes enormous. Because systems compound. A single productive day doesn't change your life. A productive system does. One healthy meal doesn't transform your body. A healthy system does. One good financial decision won't make you wealthy. A wealth-building system will. This is where most people get trapped. They chase dramatic change. They want overnight transformation. But life doesn't usually change through dramatic moments. It changes through repeated patterns. And repeated patterns are systems. The wealthy understand this. The powerful understand this. The disciplined understand this. Success is rarely an event. It's usually a process. A process repeated so consistently that the outcome becomes predictable. That's why high performers don't obsess over goals. They obsess over systems. Because goals are temporary. Systems are permanent. Goals create direction. Systems create momentum. And momentum is one of the most powerful forces in the world. Once it starts, it becomes easier to continue than to stop. The uncomfortable truth is that many people are already getting exactly what their systems are designed to produce. They just don't like the result. They want a different life without a different process, a different outcome without a different system. But that's impossible. The machine always produces what it's programmed to produce. If you want a different future, you need a different design. Not more hope, not more motivation, not more promises, a different design. Because your future is not hiding somewhere in the distance. It's already being built by the routines you repeat today. Your income, your habits, your focus, your health, your discipline. None of these are accidents, they are outputs. And outputs always reveal the system behind them. The crowd spends years trying to force better results. The powerful rebuild the machine, because they understand a truth that changes everything. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And whatever system you're running right now is already creating your future. The only question is whether you're building that future intentionally or allowing it to happen by default. Most people think they have a motivation problem. They don't. They have a comfort problem. And that single misunderstanding may be the reason they never become who they were capable of becoming. Think about it. How many times have you felt motivated? A new year begins. A powerful video inspires you. A book changes your perspective. You feel energized, focused, ready to transform your life. For a few days, maybe even a few weeks, everything changes. You wake up early. You work harder. You stay disciplined. And then something happens. The motivation fades. The routine breaks. The old habits return. And you're right back where you started. Most people look at this cycle and conclude that they're weak, undisciplined, lazy. But that's not what's happening. Something much deeper is taking place. You are fighting against millions of years of evolution because motivation is emotional, comfort is biological, and biology almost always wins. Your brain was never designed to help you achieve extraordinary success. It was designed to keep you alive. For most of human history, survival depended on conserving energy, avoiding unnecessary effort, seeking safety, seeking certainty, seeking immediate rewards. The humans who followed those instincts survived. The ones who ignored them often didn't. That programming still exists inside you today. Which means every time you try to build something difficult, your brain quietly asks a question. Is this really necessary? And if the reward isn't immediate, the answer is usually no. This is why comfort is so powerful. Comfort pays instantly. Success pays later. Comfort says, skip the workout. Success says, train for 6 months. Comfort says, watch one more episode. Success says, work on your future. Comfort says, start tomorrow. Success says, start now. One offers immediate relief. The other offers delayed rewards. And human beings are naturally drawn toward immediate relief. This is the uncomfortable truth most people never realize. They are not losing a battle against failure. They are losing a battle against convenience. The average person believes success requires more motivation. The powerful understand success requires less negotiation. Because every time you negotiate with comfort, comfort gains power. You tell yourself, I'll do it later. I deserve a break. One day won't matter. And in isolation, those decisions seem harmless. But life is not shaped by individual decisions. Life is shaped by repeated decisions, repeated daily, repeated weekly, repeated yearly. And eventually those decisions become your identity. The wealthy understand this principle better than most. They know that motivation is temporary. But systems can outlast emotion. That's why highly successful people don't organize their lives around what they feel like doing. They organize their lives around what must be done, whether they feel inspired or not, whether they feel energetic or not, whether they feel ready or not. Because they understand something most people never learn. Feelings are unreliable advisors. If you only work when you feel motivated, you'll spend most of your life waiting for inspiration, waiting for confidence, waiting for energy, waiting for the perfect moment. And while you're waiting, time keeps moving. Opportunities keep passing. The future keeps being created without you. This is where the true danger of comfort appears. Comfort doesn't destroy your life overnight. It destroys it quietly, one excuse at a time, one delay at a time, one distraction at a time. That's why comfort is so difficult to recognize. Failure hurts immediately. Comfort feels good. Failure announces itself. Comfort disguises itself as self-care, as relaxation, as convenience, as just this once. And that's why comfort is often more dangerous than failure. Failure teaches lessons. Comfort teaches complacency. Failure creates feedback. Comfort creates stagnation. Failure forces adaptation. Comfort encourages repetition. One makes you stronger. The other makes you comfortable staying the same. The powerful understand this. They don't ask, how do I stay motivated? They ask, how do I make the right action easier than the wrong action? That's a completely different question, because they know motivation is temporary, but design can be permanent. When your environment is designed correctly, success no longer depends on emotion, it depends on execution. And execution becomes easier because the battle with comfort has already been decided. The crowd spends their lives chasing motivation. The successful spend their lives reducing friction. The crowd tries to become stronger. The successful build systems that don't require strength. Because at the end of the day, motivation is a spark. Comfort is gravity. And gravity always wins unless you build something powerful enough to overcome it. That's why most people never fail because they're incapable. They fail because comfort slowly convinced them to postpone the life they wanted. Day after day, month after month, year after year, until one day they realized something painful. The greatest obstacle was never a lack of potential. It was the comfort they refused to leave behind, because comfort feels safe. But comfort has a hidden cost, and that cost is the future you could have built. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not the people who feel motivated every day. They're the people who learned how to act when motivation disappeared, because that's where real power begins. Not when action feels easy, but when action becomes automatic. Even when comfort is calling your name, most people believe power comes from having more choices, more opportunities, more freedom, more options. At first, that sounds logical. Who wouldn't want more possibilities? But what if the opposite is true? What if the people who achieve the most are not the ones with the most choices? What if they're the ones who eliminate them? This sounds strange because modern culture worships freedom. We're taught that success means having unlimited options. Work whenever you want. Wake up whenever you want. Do whatever you feel like doing. But look closely at the lives of highly successful people. What you'll discover is surprising. They don't have fewer responsibilities. They have fewer decisions. And that difference changes everything. Every day your brain is spending energy. Not just on work, not just on challenges, but on decisions. What should I eat? Should I work now or later? Should I go to the gym? Should I check my phone? Should I keep working? Should I take a break? Most people don't realize it, but these tiny decisions are quietly draining their mental resources. By the time they reach the task that actually matters, they're exhausted. And when the brain is exhausted, it defaults to the easiest option available. That's not weakness. That's biology. Your brain is designed to conserve energy whenever possible. This is where most people lose control of their lives. Not because they make terrible decisions, but because they make too many decisions. Every choice becomes a negotiation. Every negotiation becomes friction, and friction kills execution. Think about it. How many goals have died because of a simple conversation inside your head? I'll start tomorrow. I don't feel ready. Maybe later. I'll skip just this once. The moment negotiation begins, comfort enters the room. And comfort is a master strategist. It doesn't need to defeat your ambition. It only needs to delay it. 1 day, 1 hour, one excuse at a time. This is why powerful people think differently about freedom. They understand that freedom is not the ability to choose everything. Freedom is the ability to remove what doesn't matter. The average person believes discipline means making the right choice every day. The powerful understand that true discipline means eliminating the wrong choices entirely. Look at the most successful people in history. Many wore similar clothes every day, followed strict routines, worked at predictable hours, ate similar meals. To outsiders, this looked boring, but they understood something profound. Every unnecessary decision steals energy from an important one, and energy is one of the most valuable resources you possess. This is why systems create power. A system removes the need to debate. You don't wake up asking whether you're going to exercise. The system already decided. You don't wonder whether you're going to create content. The system already decided. You don't negotiate with your future. You execute it. The average person sees this as restriction, but it's actually liberation. Because every decision you automate gives you back mental energy. And mental energy is the currency of achievement. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't stand in front of the mirror every morning asking yourself whether you feel motivated. You simply do it. No emotion, no debate, no resistance. That's the power of a real system. It transforms important behaviors into automatic behaviors. And once something becomes automatic, it no longer depends on willpower. This is where most people misunderstand high performance. They think successful people are mentally stronger, more disciplined, more motivated. Sometimes that's true, but often the real difference is much simpler. Successful people designed environments where success became easier than failure. They removed distractions, removed temptations, removed escape routes, removed unnecessary choices, because they know something most people never learn. Every open door competes for your attention. Every alternative weakens commitment. Every option creates friction. Imagine walking through a hallway with 10 different doors. One leads to progress. The other 9 lead to distraction. How long before you open the wrong one? Now imagine those 9 doors are gone. Only one path remains. No confusion, no temptation, no internal conflict. That's what powerful systems do. They eliminate the possibility of self-sabotage. And when self-sabotage disappears, focus becomes effortless. The crowd believes power comes from having more choices. The powerful understand power comes from needing fewer choices. Because every eliminated decision creates more clarity. More clarity creates more action. More action creates more results. And results create confidence. This is why the strongest people are often the least emotional about execution. They don't rely on feeling ready. They don't wait for inspiration. They don't ask themselves whether they should act. The decision was made long ago. The system handles it. And that's what real power looks like. Not forcing yourself to do difficult things every day, but building a life where the right actions happen automatically. The average person spends years fighting themselves. The powerful remove the fight, because they understand a truth that changes everything. Success is not about making better decisions. It's about making fewer decisions. And once you learn to remove choice from the things that matter most, execution stops being a struggle. It becomes inevitable. And when execution becomes inevitable, success is no longer a possibility. It becomes a consequence. Most people spend their lives trying to believe their way into success. They repeat affirmations. They listen to motivational speeches. They stare into the mirror and tell themselves they are confident, disciplined, and capable. And for a moment, it feels powerful. For a moment, they feel different. Stronger, more optimistic, more motivated. But then reality arrives. The alarm clock rings. The work gets difficult. The resistance appears. And suddenly that confidence disappears. Why? Because belief alone is fragile. Belief is easy to create. Evidence is hard to ignore. This is one of the greatest misunderstandings in modern self-improvement. People think identity is created by positive thinking. It isn't. Identity is created by proof. Think about how your brain actually works. Your brain is not interested in what you say. It is interested in what you repeatedly do. You can tell yourself you're disciplined 1,000 times. But if your actions consistently show procrastination, your brain will trust the actions, not the words. You can tell yourself you're confident. But if you constantly avoid challenges, your brain will believe avoidance is your true identity. Because your mind operates like a detective, it collects evidence. Every action becomes a clue. Every habit becomes a vote. Every repeated behavior becomes a piece of proof. And over time, your brain builds a conclusion. This is who you are. That conclusion becomes your identity. The average person tries to change identity from the outside in. They start with belief. They hope behavior follows. The powerful do the opposite. They start with behavior. Then allow belief to emerge naturally. Because they understand a truth that most people never discover. Confidence is not a cause. Confidence is an effect. It is the result of repeatedly keeping promises to yourself. Imagine 2 people. The first person spends every day saying, "I am successful. I am disciplined. I am focused." The second person says nothing, but wakes up every morning and executes, works out, builds, creates, improves, shows up again tomorrow, and the day after that. Who do you think develops stronger confidence? The answer is obvious. Because one person is collecting words, the other is collecting evidence, and evidence changes identity. This is why systems are so powerful. Every completed action becomes proof. Every completed workout becomes proof. Every finished project becomes proof. Every promise kept becomes proof. At first, the evidence is small, almost invisible. One day completed. One task finished. One promise honored. But evidence compounds. Just like money, just like skills, just like trust. Eventually, your brain can no longer deny reality. If you've written every day for 3 months, your brain starts accepting a new identity. I am a writer. If you've exercised consistently for 6 months, I am someone who takes care of my body. If you've built content every day for a year, I am a creator. Notice what happened. You didn't convince yourself. You proved yourself. And proof is infinitely more powerful than belief. This is why most people fail during the early stages of change. They experience resistance and assume it means they're not the type of person who can succeed. But resistance is not evidence of failure. It's evidence of transition. The old identity is fighting for survival. Your brain prefers familiarity, even when familiarity is limiting. Even when familiarity is keeping you average. Because changing identity requires energy. It requires repeated proof. It requires patience. And most people quit before the evidence becomes undeniable. They stop after a few days, a few weeks, a few setbacks. And because they quit early, the old identity wins. The story remains unchanged. But the people who become extraordinary understand something different. They don't ask, "How do I believe in myself?" They ask, "What evidence am I creating today?" Because belief follows proof, not the other way around. The wealthy understand this. The powerful understand this. The disciplined understand this. Identity is not built through motivation. It is not built through positive thinking. It is not built through wishful imagination. It is built through repetition, through consistency, through evidence, day after day, action after action, promise after promise, until the person you once wanted to become slowly becomes the person you are. This is where true transformation happens, not when you feel different, not when you think differently, but when reality becomes impossible to argue with, when your actions have accumulated so much evidence that your identity has no choice but to evolve. At that point, success stops feeling like effort, because you are no longer trying to act like a successful person. You have become one. The crowd waits to believe before they act. The powerful act until belief becomes unnecessary. Because in the end, your future will never be determined by what you tell yourself. It will be determined by the evidence you create. And every action you take today is casting a vote for the person you will become tomorrow. The question is simple. What identity are your actions proving right now?